We are on the internet. We had a really I feel like that logo was like hanging there. Welcome to the Wednesday Club.
Hi everybody.
We're awake and alive. I'm Taliesin Jaffe, somewhat
He's
executive
barely
goth.
Taliesin Jaffe.
Barely Taliesin Jaffe with some eyeliner happening because of
No, that's actually
reasons.
I think that's probably super Taliesin Jaffe if you have.
Yeah, I was gonna
eyeliner
say
on.
no one thinks that's odd.
Yeah. When I saw you today, I was like, oh, Taliesin put eyeliner on. Good for him.
Yeah.
If I did it, it'd be like, all right.
Did you get a haircut, by the way?
No.
I know we already told the story, but I was just
I figured we would wait
I'm
to
going
do
to point out the
introductions.
elephant in the wound. Okay,
The elephant in the wound.
The elephant in the wound.
Yeah. Freudian slip or on purpose. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
I'm Amy Dallen.
To my left.
Jap and Rose, I am okay. I'll tell the story in a bit. Hi, I'm Matt Key.
Are you okay? Are you okay, Mackie?
I am okay. I told the story on Facebook Live.
Tell the condensed one.
So you can go watch the full story on Geek and Sundry's Facebook. Needless to say, and I'll fill you in on all the details after the show when we have more time. On my lovely wife's birthday, I ran into a door due to an optical illusion formed by how dark the door was. There were two sets of doors. I hit this one on my way to exiting. I was basically Wile E. Coyote because the door is so black. I was like, there's a hallway on the way to the door.
I'm sure. Why would you choose such a funny way to express it?
Because it's hilarious.
Because
it's really funny. And it was funny when it wasn't funny when it happened, but about half an hour later to me, it was funny. It was actually pretty immediately funny, but then I saw my wife's reaction and all the blood on my head. And then I was like, well, this actually is no longer funny. That now it's actually really bad.
Just so this makes sense. This will make sense in context later. Did she actually play the extra game of pinball?
She did not. Which, to her credit, is the right decision.
Yeah.
Okay, so I surprised my wife with a trip to like pinball. Am I ruining the context?
I feel like the lack of context adds charm. I think now people want to go see the Facebook Live.
All right, go watch the
That's
Facebook
true.
Live video
if you want
watch
to
the Facebook
find
Live
out
video.
whether or not your wife why she finished her extra game, did not finish the extra game of pinball.
Go watch the video. Needless to say, I'm okay. I'm 100. I was okay on the day of. The tetanus shot that they gave me actually hurts more than the head wound, and still currently does.
And you've weirdly forgotten every comic book you've ever read.
Yes. Yeah. It all drained out. So I'm gonna. What's fun is that I'm now a captive audience. I've never read a comic book.
That's perfect.
We're just sorry.
So, and Amy and I are a little unconscious because we did a shoot that we can't really talk about last night that went forever, but it was worth it because it was amazing.
Fuffy Butt, I have told the truth about what happened. Go watch it on Facebook Live. Or maybe we can do I'll recap the story at the end.
We'll recap it at the end if we're this is because
I'm okay!
We've never
okay.
really...
We send fake theories about what happens to Matt's face.
Actually,
Yeah, you know what?
But
Do that.
only really fake ones, not
really,
convincing ones.
Not even a little. No.
I was having fun with Brian
Thank you,
Brian
Chief.
Foster outside. He was like, Did you have to win your wife's honor by keeping a mugger from mugging her? And I was like, yes. And he's like, all with headbutts? And I was like, yes. Strangely, I was handcuffed because I was trying to do a magic trick at the time, but I was also trying to entertain some toddlers who were riding on my feet, so everything was bound. And here comes a team of 30 muggers, had to headbutt every single one of them.
So please, hashtag Wednesday Club in your Tumblr fan fiction, your Tumblr Matt Key head wound fan fiction. We're excited.
Headcanon!
Headcanon!
Wow. Okay.
Sam JK says Amy's sweater is fantastic.
Oh.
Yeah,
this
please
is,
show off.
Courtesy of the wonderful and generous Jody Hauser, who has just acquired, apparently, her excuse was she's acquired too many Wonder Woman things. And I was just like, that's amazing.
That's
and
not
you're
a
the
thing
best.
that happens.
Guess what, y'all?
Oh my god.
Oh my god, that's it.
The makers of this sweatshirt did the thing.
Oh.
That's legitimately very cool.
I'm
and
having
it
sweater
perfectly
envy.
fits you.
It makes me really excited.
And it's vaguely on topic. It's vaguely on topic. We've never had an episode of Wednesday Club. We're trying something out where we are focusing on less than 30 issues worth of comic. We're really talking about 2 very short runs and sort of tangentially a bunch of stuff that interconnects to it because it's superhero books and
Everything connects in some way.
octopi of continuity.
Octopi of continuity.
Octopi of continuity.
That's a good
Also,
word,
and we have
octopi of
this
continuity.
wonderful piece of art, which is also which Ken did, which is Miss America Chavez and Kid Loki, which we were going to be talking about because Kid Loki is awesome. Welcome to the Young Avengers. We are talking
Young Avengers!
about the Young
Avengers
Avengers.
assemble!
Ear, 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 ear.
Is that their?
That's
they
the
should
rap
have
air horn. They would have one.
They would have a thump at the very least.
Yeah, they would.
So, teenagers and superpowers go together really, really well. This is one of those things that just seems to work out naturally. If your audience is young adults, kids to young adults, writing stories about teens and young adults just makes sense. And superpowers are great tools for metaphor when talking about the sort of problems that teenagers can have and young people can have. And we've known about it for forever. I mean, ever since we've had kid sidekicks, at least on the DC end forever. We've had the Teen Titans, and we've had all these the Teen Brigade and things like that. And even slightly offshoot books have had their versions of teen superheroes, or even Captain Marvel over at DC is technically a teen superhero.
That's an interesting...
That's a tough one.
Yeah, that is a...
Sometimes Billy's like 11. He's an interesting counterpoint to this sort of like... He kind of skips the adolescence phase. Anyway.
Yeah, no, interesting though to think about. But Marvel never really had the teen sidekicks. They had Bucky, if you think about it.
Rick Jones.
You had Rick Jones, and you had basically the Captain America's teen sidekicks, which he's actually, for most of the modern era of Marvel, Captain America is kind of against the notion of anyone using him as like as a role model on that level, and is very much against sidekicks. The first time that Rick Jones puts on the Bucky suit, Cap flips on him and is like, no, children in costumes, bad.
Yes. Terribly bad.
Cap's dealing with some trauma.
He had some problems.
Yeah, early Silver Age Cap is a little whinier than you would expect a World War II like.
I really like that
strapping young soldier.
They got him out of that.
Like the stereotype of one, you know, like I am a soldier, I'm Captain America, but he was like, I've lost a Bucky. Like
everybody's hair is weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
Arguably, like, this was the thing that set Marvel apart, was like characters with feelings
absolutely.
and perspectives on things.
I
Fair
kind
point.
of dig in the movies though how quickly they moved Cap into the like the future is cool. There's good music. I've got a list.
Yeah, I've got a list.
I mean, like Bucky hurt, but he was definitely like.
And then Bucky come back.
And Bucky comes back. Bucky came back quick for
movie Cap.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Movie Cap. But so there's never been like Iron Man never really had a teen sidekick. Thor didn't really have a teen sidekick. Hulk kind of had a teen
Rick
sidekick,
Jones,
but it was
yeah.
really much more of a handler. If you think about it,
It's very true.
there wasn't really Kid Hulk. There really wasn't like. There weren't teen versions of these characters. The closest that we had were like teen teams that were kind of their own thing, but weren't really about being teenagers. The X-Men were young.
Wave after wave of teen X-Men. But
Yeah, the X-Men are young, but they're students. It's not really about that.
Super 390 says, I always thought of Rick Jones as a superhero stalker.
Yeah, I like that.
It's kind of
Groupie.
kind of pretty dead on, actually.
Such a groupie. So the notion of legacy characters was just, I mean, like there were people who would take over the suit on occasion. Like we had people who were be in the Captain America suit, but we didn't really have like the notion
that's the
of
thing. Like
multiples.
on the X-Men side, it sort of explicitly was next generations of things. Like the New Mutants was a spin-off book that was a bunch of new teens coming into their powers and all this stuff. But you didn't typically, like when the Avengers had a spin-off, it was Avengers West Coast. It was just more grown-up Avengers over here.
And those teen X-Men were never, Cyclops 2 or up until later there was like One-Eyed or like, it was never they never tried to kind of interconnect them too heavily. Like very rarely would you have the notion of someone who wants to be Cyclops trying to be the next Cyclops or taking some sort of note on that.
In fact, when they do finally do it, and it actually is Cyclops brought from the past to the future, he's trying very hard to not be Cyclops.
God, the layers of self-loathing in that character are just
So good.
time and space bends to deal with the layers of loathing that character has for himself. So I want to say, 2006, they released this book called Young Avengers. It's planned to be a mini run, and out of nowhere in the Marvel Universe in 2006, and this is at a time where there is no official Avengers team. So like.
Yeah, for those who don't know, what's going on with the Avengers at this time?
So Brian Michael Bendis, in what I thought was a really interesting idea, although there's definitely some debate on that, and that depends on your feelings on things. Thought it would be really interesting to see what would happen if the Avengers had a really bad he called it a really bad day, where everything went wrong at once, and 5 different things, like one of the Avengers,
a storyline called Avengers Disassembled, and it kicks off essentially Bendis doing about 10 or 15 years. There's not 15 years. There's a long run on the Avengers that shaped the Marvel universe really heavily.
Yeah, there was a little prelude to it called Secret War, which is always like a good read into this, and this is a great jumping on point for the Avengers because it is the end of a whole era that you don't have to deal with. Where in the scope of like a couple hours, one Avenger goes like a cyborg Avenger explodes and kills one of the other Avengers.
Jack of Hearts, right?
Jack of Hearts kills Scott Lang, who's Ant-Man, as if you know from the films.
Spoilers for Avengers.
Spoilers for Disassembled, and it's like one issue this all happens in. One of the other Avengers goes nuts and kills another Avenger,
and that would be
the Vision.
The Vision. That's right.
The Vision dies. The mansion gets destroyed in an alien invasion. Another Avenger dies that we won't get into. Everything happens all at once, and at the end of this just catastrophe, they call it quits. There's just nothing left. They don't have. Tony Stark gets disgraced and loses his funding, and like his company goes bankrupt, and there's no money for the Avengers. A bunch of them are now dead. There's this huge alien invasion that just happened. It's just over. It's over. Everyone whoever's left walks away at this point. And in this kind of weird quiet moment where there's no Avengers actually operating, suddenly this team shows up and they all look like 16-year-old versions of the Avengers. There's a young Captain America in a mask, although technically a Bucky costume, which is interesting. There's a Hulk character who's kind of this young teenage Hulk, and his magical Thor-ish kind of boyfriend who are just running around with and the Thor character kind of has magic, and there's a young Iron Man. There's a kid in an Iron Man suit, and slowly this team begins to come together, and they're not very good at it, which is kind of fun, and they're all a bit of a mess. But this team gets introduced of Marvel's kind of first legacy characters of these young people who have decided for one reason or another to base who they are on these existing heroes that are now kind of in the background. The only time and we also get introduced to the notion of superhero fanboys, which have been kind of touched on in these comics. In Marvel's, there's you're kind of aware that there are people who are like think superheroes are just really cool and follow them, but the Thor and the Hulk, which are Hulkling and Wiccan, which are their names for these superheroes, basically are like Reddit nerds. They follow. They're in forums talking about superheroes. They know the names of every superhero if there's a public alias where they've seen, and so they're just encyclopedias of nerddom. They've got superpowers and they decided to be superheroes, and they rescue a bunch of people being held hostage at a wedding, where one of the bridesmaids decides that she's had enough of watching these people be idiots and decides to take down the gunman herself. And this is Kate Bishop. Kate Bishop, who is one of the great. Yes, please, dude. You want to? I've been talking too much. You give.
No, this is great. This is one of my favorite books of all time.
We're going to take you through the original, the
Do you mean like
Young
this
Avengers
particular issue or this story arc, this Young Avengers story arc? Which book?
Like the original Alan Heinberg written, Jim Chung drawn Young Avengers run is just one of my favorite things.
It's really good,
and it is a testament to like. To it and to Gillen and McKelvey that like another of my favorite teams could come on later and do a run on it that I would love just as much despite being totally different, because that kind of should have been impossible because of how much, usually like the second people to do a quite different take on the characters, it's very hard to be fair to them.
Yeah.
Anyway, they nailed it, so that works out. But
and they had like their own voice. Like they had a completely different voice from what...
I'm skipping ahead.
Oh, yeah, too quick.
But one of the wonderful things is, and the thing I love about this original Young Avengers run is, I would argue, it is very surprisingly newbie friendly.
Extremely.
It is
It
packed
really is.
to the gills with Marvel continuity stuff. But if you don't know it, it reads well, and they explain everything you need to know, because these kids are new. Some of them have a lot of knowledge about the superhero world, and some don't. And a thing that Alan Heinberg did really beautifully was give them each a different path in. That he devotes space to in a really nice way over the course of his run with these characters. So everyone has kind of different reasons for being there. Everyone has different reasons for picking their sort of like person that they've modeled themselves after. And if you don't know who any of the ones they're modeling themselves after, they just seem like a team of awesome super teens.
And the great thing now is that all of the characters, especially for that first run, for the very first Young Avengers run, I think all of those characters have now shown up. The characters they're modeling themselves after have been in the Avengers film. So if you know the movies, you know Thor, you know Scarlet Witch, you know Iron Man, you know Vision, you know all those characters.
That's true. I'm so used to handing the book to people who, like, it would be like, it's fine if you don't know who the Vision is, and it's like, now everybody knows who
The Vision is. Even better though is that our way into the team, like as a reader, the person who introduces you to the team is Jessica Jones from Alias.
Yeah.
So even like the weirdly obscure character who kind of shows up out of nowhere to like talk to these kids is somebody that if you're following the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you are aware of. And this is a much more together Jessica, who's kind of
Way more.
Somewhat more.
she's working for the Daily Planet. She's
Yeah.
helping them. She's like she's what are the specialists or superheroes?
Bugle, not Planet.
For the Bugle,
Yeah.
that's right. Oh God,
Like
I am
getting
so tired.
superheroes crossed.
I'm so tired. So it's great now that people have this baseline of these characters of Hawkeye and otherwise. So let's talk about our first heroes, and I think just because they had already gotten together and started fighting crime in their weird way. When Hawkeye, when Kate Bishop comes in and is like, you people need somebody who's got their shit together.
Yeah.
You're a mess.
You guys are a mess.
And I've just decided I want to be a superhero.
I mean, there is something to be said about like how noble that is. That she's like, I have no powers. I'm in what kind of school is it? Why am I forgetting the name
There's
of the school?
there's actually a quote, and I'm sure we're going to bring the picture up at some point because it's actually from the second run of the book, and it's a quote of hers that I love.
And my favorite thing about Kate Bishop is that I should hate her, like, from the beginning, where, like, you meet her and she's kind of a brat who thinks
Yeah.
she knows
Brat.
everything. She's a spoiled little rich girl, but, like, she's the best. Like, she's the best.
I'm with you. It's like it's hard to even like.
It's hard to quantify, yeah, but like I think that there's just something so noble about like, all right, you guys, you have powers and you're not using them right. You know what? I'm going to prep school. I'm good at archery. I'm a hero now, and I'm gonna help you.
Yeah.
I just love that. She's like, she just makes a decision one day. All right, screw it. I'm a hero.
This is my life now.
This is my life now.
So they open the second volume of this book, which we'll be getting into, with a quote from her that I love so much, and it's actually the title of the first episode, the first issue of Young Avengers, or the byline title, not the main title, is I have no powers and not nearly enough training, but I'm doing this anyway. Being a superhero is amazing. Everyone should try it. And that is the vibrancy of these books.
Yeah.
So tell us about Kate, and I'll what do
How
you
much
wanna-
of the story do we want to go through on the original stuff? That's
We don't. I don't think we want to give too much away, but
Okay.
she's interesting also because she's one of the characters. She comes in and just sort of like is a bit of an organizing force. Who is she? Less about what she's done and more who she is. And she's also one of the ones that's kind of spun off into her own book.
she's
Quite a
gone
bit.
on. This has been amazing to watch. She's gone from like minor character that I liked in a teen book that some people read but not that many people, to appearances in other places. The Young Avengers went their regular book, and they show up in a couple different places. They get roped into some of the larger Marvel Universe events.
Like you do.
Like you do.
Panel filler.
And eventually, a few years back now, there is a run of Hawkeye comics written by Matt Fraction that we, I think, have referenced a little bit here.
We have.
Yeah.
We're eventually probably going to like really delve
We
into
should.
it because it's really good.
Artist by Dave Aha, among others.
It's one of the better. of the last 10 years, certainly from Marvel.
I use there's a little frame of a newspaper from one of just like a throwaway panel in that book that I sometimes everything terrible.
Someone do something.
Oh God, someone do something! Oh please, it's just
It's hands down one of the best books to come out of Marvel in the last 10 years.
It's
is
amazing.
that Hawkeye run? And I love. Side note on the Hawkeye run. There's at the end of the run, the editor called back to something he said when it launched, which was that I think the book came out in 2012, and he said something like, "This is the best book of 2015." And by the time the book was wrapping up, it was interesting because comics had changed in the image of this run because people were like, "Yes, that, more of that."
Oh, it's a book that changed everything.
Yeah. Anyway. Backing up, a choice that Matt Fraction made, I assume it was his idea, but I could be wrong, please correct me, is that his Hawkeye book had two main characters, and they were both Hawkeye. Clint Barton, now back on the scene, and Kate Bishop.
Who he is, and this is, I've actually stolen this phrase from and I use it way too often, I have to probably thin it out, he describes his version of Clint, which is a little different than the movie version, as a human tire fire, and I do use that a lot. And he is a mess of a human being who can't get his television working right. Like nothing. He's a superhero who kind of pays rent and kind of has friends.
Yeah.
And is just a dope and really.
But he's got no powers, and he recognizes that he has no powers, and he's not a brilliant man like Tony Stark is. So like, no powers, but at least I have a suit of armor. You know?
Yeah, and Kate Bishop is sort of his sidekick, except that they're both called Hawkeye, and she's kind of more together than
she's way more put together
every
than
level.
Him, yeah.
Ooh, Hawkeye volumes issues 1 and 2
are for free on Comics Outlet.
Oh yeah.
Issues 1 and 2. Okay.
No, volumes.
Did you just shout issues?
Volumes 1 and 2. It says on Chef's notes.
I know he said something we can't hear.
He said volumes because we said issues.
Great.
Yeah.
Also on
that's a lot of
Marvel
books.
Unlimited.
Oh yeah.
If you want to, if
Marvel
you subscribe to
Unlimited
that,
is a big pile of great.
Yeah, it is.
So in this Hawkeye run, it started Hawkeye and Hawkeye, and by the end of it, they were sort of alternating stories between the two Hawkeyes. And fast forward, it is 2017, and I believe shipping in stores today is issue 7 or 8 of Hawkeye.
7.
Kate Bishop.
Yeah.
She's currently Hawkeye. Hawkeye Clint Barton is, I think, also Hawkeye at the moment.
He's also Hawkeye, but he's having
but she's
an
having her
crisis.
own detective adventures right now that are selling like crazy and doing really well.
Her suffix is Hawkeye, not the Hawk guy, which I really enjoy.
The whole we should do a fraction Hawkeye.
It's got a bit of a Chandler. Okay, for like those who read too much, it's got a little bit of if you can imagine like
Chandler from Friends.
Raymond
Chandler. I love you. You did that intentionally, you jerk. Don't even fucking. It's got a little bit of that Raymond Chandler with a little bit of Veronica Mars, like without the angst. Like it's just fun detective with and she's just made of cool.
Part of the reason we're dwelling on this is that it doesn't always happen this way. When you introduce a bunch of new characters to a universe, a lot of times they become the favorites of a couple of people who talk about them forever, and nobody ever really does anything with them again.
Yes.
When you're working in these shared universes, you have to hope that the toys you put into the universe, somebody else feels compelled to pick up on and play with.
And usually they don't.
Yeah, a lot of times they don't, which can make for fun trivia. But it's why I'm so proud of Kate Bishop. Like she's like the way I'm excited about Jodie Hauser wrecking the comic book industry. I'm just yeah, you're a big deal. I knew it. We saw it coming.
No, and from panel one, you're from panel one, you're into Kate Bishop. You're like, this is just a character. She's in a terrible dress at a wedding, and you're already like, you are just not taking any shit. You're amazing. Also on this team we have, and I think we should do these two as a pair because they are so coupled that they're like the only couple I can think of that is more disgusting is you and your wife.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
My wife and I are pretty gross.
Are we talking about Billy and Teddy now?
We're talking about Billy and Teddy.
They are the best!
Month, y'all.
Oh, they are the best. I forgot how much I loved them until I was reading over it this weekend, and I was like, I forgot that I love these guys so much. I don't know, it's just so good to see a gay couple treated as it's not like, look, they're gay, look at what we're doing. It's just they're a couple in love, and that's great and wonderful. I love that. it's taken for granted that this is a thing that can happen.
Well, and they're also teenagers, and they're also nerds, and I will also say their origins, which are difficult to get into because they are two of the characters who are a giant convoluted mess of origin. I think partly through editorial demands and partly just through.
I always figured that was intentional, just because it was an interesting, like, they kept revealing it layer after layer.
There are layers to their stories, and like who they are and how they got their powers is very, very complex. This is also one of my favorite lines: is Hulkling talking to Hawkeye when she's dating Marvel Boy, is my faking of it is total. He is by the way for the Critical Role fans. Yet, yeah, when we get to Marvel Boy, he is the Percy of the Young Avengers. I love him. So he is. His faking of it is total. Indeed.
But a side note, also, queer representation in comics has come a long way and has a long way to go.
Yes.
But several of those milestones are sort of Young Avengers related.
Very much so.
Both of the major runs won GLAAD awards.
They did both.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
The first one definitely did. I believe the second one did as well.
And this is one of those things where, like, I just putting the sort of perspective hat back on, like, it's what it means today, and then it's that they did this over 10 years ago.
Ages ago. And it was a book that excited me. I mean, the second book even more so, but the first book too, because these kids, I was a drama club kid. This was the first book that looked like the kids I knew in drama club, where I was like, oh, okay, everyone's a little oversexed, and there's definitely some couples that are like way too much, and it's great.
One of my favorite things, and I think I've said this on the show before, in the Lego Avengers video game, you can earn Hulkling and Wiccan, and I just love to run around New York with the two of them, just like, hey, are they catch up, Wiccan?
I was about to say, are they cute together? Because that would make me really happy.
They're pretty cute together. Yeah, it's so fun, and like they go flying, and then Hulkling takes out, and we're in love in New York. Yeah.
They're both nerds. They're both nerd boys. Hulkling has a shape-changing power. He actually doesn't have to be big and green. He just chooses to be big and green because he's a superhero nerd. And Wiccan's powers are interesting.
Can we get into his background, or is that spoiler? I don't feel like that's too spoilery.
What do you think? I'm on the edge here. What is this?
Chat, weigh in.
Chat, tell us. Do you want to know his actual origin, or is that? Oh, Matt, that was so cute. That's Shobek Sani. You're on this critical role as a young adult transported into fantasy. I arrive late. What's up with Matt's head? That's from Bubba Hotep.
No.
Depends on your
Facebook
history.
Live.
Yes. No. Okay. They're all saying do it. Okay.
All right. So yeah, you know
yes,
what?
No. Yes. Do it.
To
yes.
be fair,
yes, no.
to be fair, this is
spoil. Yes. 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 Yes.
This
yes.
is
sure,
this
why
is
not?
the lobby of a comic book store, and if we were in a comic book store lobby right now, we'd be totally telling that we would just say leave the store if you don't want to hear it for 2 minutes, but we'd be doing
just close your ears if you don't want to hear it.
Comic
for
book store
minutes.
rules. So yeah, he's Hulkling is half Skrull, which is definitely complicated in the Marvel U. That is not a good thing to be, and they are the shape-changing aliens.
Yep.
But even more complicated is his other half, which is Kree.
Which is really weird and doesn't happen very often.
Remember those times that we've mentioned the Kree-Skrull War?
I love your... Remember the Kree-Skrull War, everybody?
His family had some intense political power. On the
Skrull side...
On the Skrull side, he was actually a prince, I believe.
His mother was like a princess of the Skrull homeworld, and his dad, if I remember correctly, was Captain Marvel.
I don't know if it was actually Captain Marvel, but here, wait, I have a button for this. Because I want to double check, because I was wrong about a bunch of stuff earlier today. As I make that go away. Yes he is. He's the son of Captain Marvel and a Skrull princess. Look at that.
Did I lose my mind and forget this?
I forgot who Iron Lad is, so don't feel bad. Like, I had totally forgotten like that origin.
Hey, you know what? There's a lot of comics, and we can't remember everything.
There he is. Oh, Teddy's adorable.
Yeah, he is. They're the cutest. I'm sorry.
And
Those
really are.
he's this very like shy, sweet prince of an alien, and like he doesn't know any of this. He himself is discovering where his powers came from. And then Wiccan is like a little more serious, a little more studious and nerdy. And his power is a very vague magic power where he can just kind of concentrate and make things happen. Despite being a Thor based, it's a little Scarlet Witchy for reasons that we'll get convoluted and into it later.
Again, I don't think that's a spoiler to say.
That's not too well. No, it's not. You're right. You're right.
So Wiccan's background is very confusing, and I actually may need a couple holes filled in from you guys. But It turns out he is the son to the Scarlet Witch.
So Scarlet Witch deserves her own episode.
Boy.
Actually, yeah.
Actually, I've already got a title for it when you're Scarlet Fever. Boom, 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 boom. Too much? Or is it like, I don't know, we'll workshop it. Yeah. Like disco fever. I don't know. It's also a disease now I think about it, so maybe never mind. We'll workshop it. This is why we have a text feed so we can think these things through and say them online.
No, it's good. No, I think I like it.
So the son, go ahead.
It's one of those things where the Young Avengers run picks up on pieces of Marvel history.
Yes.
Because, broadly speaking, Scarlet Witch has suffered more than a lot of other characters from retconning.
Mm-hmm.
She has had her origin changed a bunch of times. She has had
She was a mutant, then she wasn't a mutant. She was born from the High Evolutionary, then she wasn't.
Sometimes she's Magneto's daughter, sometimes she isn't.
Mm-hmm.
And
all within the same continuity. Like, it just keeps changing.
People keep saying, no, the real story's this. No, the real story's this. No, the real story's this. And one of the weird experiences that she had is that over the course of being an Avenger, Scarlet Witch, Wanda Maximoff, who has sort of what's called like a hex power, like a slight reality alteration thing, which in early days was mostly like made you trip on a log,
made you look, shoes are untied, you tripped.
But being the way power creep works in the imaginations of comic book writers sort of got wilder over the years.
Yes.
Power creep. I like that.
Power creep's a really good term.
Yeah. I think I stole that from video games.
It's a good
RPGs. I don't know.
It's a good term. I'm going to use that. Power creep.
Power creep.
Because people do tend to become more and more and more powerful, like, over time.
Yeah, you keep solving problems in comic books occasionally just by giving someone a little more, but then...
Or you can't resist the little impulse of like, well, if Magneto's powers really followed the rules of science, then blah, 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 all the iron in your blood.
Why can't he, make the iron in your blood do things?
Well, and it's fun to think that way, but it also leads to massive godlike powers as soon as you think anything through.
That's why we had to make up the term Omega level mutant. It's basically a mutant who's been in one too many books and now has way too many powers.
Yeah. And Scarlet Witch is an Omega level mutant, right?
Yes, she is, actually.
Oh, God,
she was, now she's not.
Yeah.
Okay, but one of the things that happens to her is that she falls in love with fellow Avenger the Vision, which is just real adorable. And they, at a certain point...
Yeah.
They have twins.
They have
twin babies. They got married.
He got married. He is also, I should point out at this point...
Oh, right. He's a synthezoid.
He's a synthezoid. He's not actually a real...
He's not a full-on
person.
Android. Yeah.
So it kind of shouldn't have worked, but everyone was like, congratulations.
Yeah, everyone just sort of ignored that this is like, how did this happen?
And here's the fuzzy thing, because I've kind of blocked out how exactly this happened.
Mm-hmm.
But... So to help me to fill in
I can happily fill in the blanks of this weird.
Because it's like, you have baby twins. Just kidding, no you don't.
Mm-hmm.
Not because they, in a normal...
Yeah, this is actually a place
how
where
it happened in the books...
I only know the House of M part of it.
How it happened in the books is that she had and I think it was just that they ended up going, you didn't actually have twins because he's a robot. You literally used your powers to manifest... two creatures out of thin air that aren't real.
So somebody sort of said, you took your desire to have children with your husband who you love, and you created, because that's kind of your power.
Like subconsciously, she
altered reality, which she does, and pulled two souls out of the ether and, turned them into her twin kids, and then, it started to fuck with stuff, and Doctor Strange had to come in and do the, gotta put this back. No, we gotta put it back. And they erased her memory of ever having kids.
I blocked out a lot of this.
And it was literally the thing that set it off was other human tire fire Janet Pym. Bless her. Other human tire fire Janet Pym made a sideways comment about her kids to her while they were just relaxing, and she's like, what? And Jen was like, no, never mind. And it the wheels just started clicking again, and then she remembered that the Avengers murdered her fake children. And went nuts.
And that's where House of M started.
So
that's where this giant catastrophe.
This to say your mileage is gonna vary on this story. And one of my favorite things about the Young Avengers run is that they kind of fix it.
They kind of fix it.
Like, I mean, hands down, I have a lot of favorite things about
Which is that you can't erase souls. Like, that was the thing that they kind of got to, is like, these souls just don't vanish. They got her twins.
Well, what I meant is that Young Avengers is eventually going to get around to fixing House of M.
Yes.
And what it did to Scarlet Witch.
Yes.
Because House of M was a big Marvel event, which essentially was born out of kind of, as I understand it. So this is all background that you don't need to read and enjoy the Young Avengers books, guys.
But we gotta get the basics, and there are a lot of basics.
But it does help. This is background that will help, like,
when we
increase your enjoyment.
talk about House of M, and yeah.
So House of M is a big storyline in which the background to this, I believe, is that editorial kind of went like, the X-Men have been wildly popular for 10 or 15 years, and they have multiplied. There are thousands of mutants, and it sort of means nothing has any meaning, and it's all too confusing. And we want to get it. We think an interesting story would be for this sort of theoretically endangered species to be way more endangered.
Crisis of Infinite Mutants. They wanted to thin out. They wanted it to just take a chunk of their universe and thin the herd.
Yeah.
And so here is. So spoilers for House of M?
Well, it's been a decade.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. But if you do not want to hear it, just leave the store for a second.
And I will say, much as I dislike elements of this story, it's a pretty compelling read. I enjoyed reading through this story. It's sort of, everybody is like in an alternate version of things, suddenly. One of those things that Marvel is especially prone to doing.
Yes.
Everything is different. And you read through this series and you're like, whoa, this world is totally different. And mutants are on top. Mutants are actually running things. Magneto with his daughter by his side.
There's a lot of good in here and interesting things that are put forward. This is how we got the modern Captain Marvel. There's a lot of things that came out of this book.
There's some really, like, anytime that you're like, well, what if a bunch of stuff was different, you get opportunities for cool storytelling. So they go through this, and there's only, like, I think initially one or two characters who sort of can tell that something is wrong. And so you get this kind of unraveling mystery over the course of the book of them figuring out that something is wrong and attempting to put it back. And spoilers for the end of House of M. Wanda made the whole world that way because she was crazy and expressing her trauma about the loss of her children. And then when caught on her, like, you can't do that to the whole world, this is crazy, she overreacts wildly against the mutant paradise that she just created, and says the now famous 3 words of the Marvel Universe:
No more mutants.
And it's like a close-up of it, and it's like just a whisper, no more mutants. And
it's
all of a sudden,
under 200, and then suddenly there are
168?
100, I want to say,
I don't know,
50,
198. I think.
Yeah, like,
198. That's right, because they had that title, like that limited 60.
So suddenly
run,
there were
198.
There were less than 200 mutants left in the
So not everyone else didn't die; they just lost their powers. Essentially, this was the vast majority of the mutants out there lost their powers and abilities instantly as a result of this sort of reality-altering power of the Scarlet Witch, who I think then vanishes.
Yeah, she vanishes for a long while.
Yeah, 2 or 3 years.
Until, and so this is one of those moments where, like, comics, these are the decisions you make. Was it a cool story that makes it worth, like, taking Scarlet Witch, who had the troubled history, and making her just, like, super off her rocker, borderline genocidal? I don't know how I feel about all this, and you're kind of implying, like, you're playing into a lot of tropes about women losing their minds over children, and it's
complicated. It's complicated, but it's also a really good read.
But it's a good read.
Really good read.
So here's what I love. Heinberg fixed it.
Yes. So the 2 souls that were floating in the ether become 2 people, and one of them has Scarlet Witch-like powers and is a member of the Young Avengers. And he finds out that while he is definitely someone else's kid, his soul is the soul of Scarlet Witch's now retconned children.
So essentially, there's a long thing where he's kind of like, I sort of feel like Scarlet Witch is my mom, but I know Scarlet Witch isn't my mom. I have a mom.
I have a mom.
She was not my mom.
And my mom and dad love me.
I kind of feel like she's my mom, and it's sort of like, well, are you just making that up because you want this connection to be true, or... And then
it turns out, and then it also means that he, despite being an only child, has an identical twin brother, who will join later, and we'll just quickly touch on because it's perfectly good. Yeah,
And he has the powers
of Scarlet Witch's brother Quicksilver, and he's a speedster, and and Speed is his name, and
Speed is his name.
He's a fascinating. He's not a good kid. I love Speed. Speed's a. We'll get into.
The
might as
other
well
way
get
that
him now.
Heinberg fixed it is that there's a later Young Avengers run that actually deals with Scarlet Witch.
Yeah.
And that's the part that I'm just like.
Children's Crusade.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a great read.
And before we depart from it fully, shout out to Alan Heinberg, who is like a TV writer and has done some comics and just sort of dipped in there to do a bunch of my favorite stuff.
Yeah.
And then write the script for Wonder Woman.
Boom.
Wait, is that who?
Yeah.
Are you serious? I didn't know that. That's awesome.
I can't wait to see this movie. I haven't seen the movie yet, by the way. I've been. As anyone who has a Twitch stream knows, I've been really busy this week. I'm going to see it this weekend. I'm so excited.
So yeah, Alan Heinberg loves rad women characters.
Oh, Children's
Thank you,
Crusade is
Alan
great.
Heinberg. You make the world better.
And the Children's Crusade is a fascinating read. Tommy, whose Speed eventually joins the team, although he's kind of a. They find him he's basically in a juvenile detention center because he's a problem.
But it's a lovely callback to the fact that Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver were originally
also villains originally.
before they kind of got reformed and joined the Avengers.
And Speed, I'll also say, eventually does get his shit together really well and is a really fun character. I mean, like, they're all great kids. They're all like there's no one you don't enjoy spending time with in these books. So that's.
Have we gotten to Patriot?
We're about to do Patriot. There he is. There's Tommy. I love that suit. He gives
suit.
no fucks. He's the clubbing kid. He's the kid who goes dancing every week.
The worst.
So he's you.
Yeah. No, I'm not nearly as cool as Tommy.
You and your twins.
Tommy's awful. No, if I was anybody, I was maybe
Wiccan.
No, I was Wiccan pretending to be Marvel Boy. Come with me if you want to be awesome is very much the sort of stupid shit I would have said. That's Patriot.
You want to talk about picking up
Eli.
on the coolest stuff that people put into the Marvel Universe.
What was the name of that book? Captain America Red?
Truth. Right?
Truth. That's right. Captain America Truth. A little dark corner, and one I really love of the Captain America universe is that Captain America was not the first. They didn't just give him that serum and expect it to work.
This piece of mythology was added in a story called Captain America Truth or Red, White, and Truth or something like that.
Yeah, I know I'm being bad.
I'll see if I can look it up.
Right?
So there were human tests involved in the super soldier serum, and one of the things they did was they rounded up. I was going to say it was soldiers with who had been court-martialed, had been caught doing it during World War II, and especially black soldiers, and used them as human experimentation.
This is basically a place where they took an opportunity to add a measured real-world context to their mythology in a way that made a lot of sense. Where you were sort of like, look, if we accept that Cap is from the 40s, and knowing what we know about American medical and scientific history, it is fairly reasonable to suppose that test subjects might have been chosen in a certain way.
All of the Tuskegee Airmen and otherwise. And
the Tuskegee experiment.
The Tuskegee experiment. Why my brain? I should not be
because it's the same word, and that's easy to do.
I have slept so.
It's Truth, Red, White, and Black.
There we go. We had all the right words, but Truth, Red, White, and Black.
It is an amazing book.
It's a mini-series that I like.
From 2003.
2003, that knocked my socks off at the time. I haven't read it in years.
And it makes a canonical earlier Captain America that is in canon. That one of these text subjects survived. All of them died except one, if I recall.
That's the way I remember it.
There's also a weird version. I will say the ultimate version. That's what they did with this is about it. Nick Fury. Was that Nick Fury was one of those experiments that went well.
Oh, interesting! I haven't read it.
I know there's some really interesting stuff in they mix and match a lot of stuff.
Who did this? It was Robert Morales and Kyle Baker, according to Wikipedia. We're doing the Truth, Red, White, and Black series in 2003 that added this sort of piece. And so
Isaiah Bradley
did not die, but
went on a bunch of secret missions as a secret ops, as a special ops Captain America during World War II, and they kind of kept him under wraps. Although the what did you?
Ooh.
We did one of those things where we're just like talking comic books and not
we've
100%
we've gone
explaining
too deep,
things.
y'all.
Yeah.
Question from
Bring it.
Triamus. Have you explained the term retcom already?
Not today, we
Not
haven't.
today.
Not
we
today.
haven't.
We have talked about it before, but we should revisit that.
Since the chronology of comic books is very much yes and we have to go issue to issue when you're telling these stories with superheroes, and history is kind of built by multiple people over a long span of time, and it's all a little bit slipshod and chaotic. Sometimes we flash back or travel back into the past and add something that, if done right, we add a story that creates a deeper, richer mythology or adds context to something that doesn't quite make sense anymore.
Technically, we are arguing that this Red, White, and Black was a really cool retcon.
Or sometimes you go in there and add a piece that sort of jumbles everything and can make everything a little bit chaotic or doesn't necessarily fit. And so there is such a thing as a good retcon. A retroactive continuity.
Yeah, continuity is what is true, and when you go back and make a change that sort of says that thing that you thought happened didn't happen, or it happened differently than you think,
Or plus.
it's referred to as retroactive continuity. I think
Or retconning, yeah.
Yeah, I love that one article where they break it down like hurricanes. That's sort of a category 1
that's
retcon,
retcon 1,
category 2
retcon 2.
a category 3. Eric
a really
White,
good-
you're a
Go back
genius.
and- yeah, I need to go back and
So
read that.
sometimes we find ways of really enriching the histories of these characters, and I will say, like, this was a book that like blew my mind, and I'm so glad there was a moment where I thought that they were just going to let it slide, but then Patriot showed up, and is the grandson of this original Captain America,
Who ended up essentially like he wasn't killed by the serum in his experiences, but he ends up in sort of a vegetative state.
Yeah, or a little, definitely it ends up causing brain damage,
Yeah.
and he ends up kind of a mess living in Brooklyn, if I recall. And,
Oh yeah.
Like forgotten and impoverished and
eventually, and eventually they go back and
tragic, really.
well, and eventually
and it
they go
sounds
back
cynical,
and
but it's not, especially since they. Yeah. Anyway.
no, it's quite the opposite of cynical. I mean, like it's truthful in the history, but I think really like is so beautifully encapsulates the spirit of Captain America, and his relationship with the Captain America mythos, I think, is unbelievably interesting and positive. But Eli, grandson of is not happy with how his grandfather has been dealt with, and is an angry.
So he kind of goes out there with a chip on his shoulder, being like, "My dad was my granddad was Captain America, and nobody knows it, and that sucks."
So I'm going to be Captain America.
Even though I don't have powers, I'm just going to do it, which is kind of a theme.
He builds a suit that's very much the Bucky to his grandfather's. It's not even an attempt to be Captain America. It's almost this like, I'm going to be this Bucky so that people figure out that there's this relationship. It's such an attempt to honor him on that level. There's some weird stuff. Eli doesn't actually have superpowers for the beginning. He's faking them using this really the I don't want to say it's dumb because it's not, because it's such a. There's a thing called MGH, which is like a drug in the Marvel
Mutant growth
universe.
hormone.
Yeah, it's a drug in the Marvel universe that gives you temporary superpowers. And
it's never looked upon favorably.
no, because you have to harvest it from mutants.
Yeah, so like using it is typically seen sort of like in the same light as like someone who's like a heroin junkie or something like that. It's always like, well, no, don't do that. That's
Dangerous to
bad.
mess with.
That's
Bad,
really,
bad,
really bad.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's a
you're
bad
gonna
drug
mess
habit.
yourself up doing that.
And you start to like actually eventually physically change, like you're like you get these really big forehead after a while. You get all weird, and it's not good for you, and it's really evil and messed up. But he eventually does something. I don't want to spoil it. Does something wonderfully heroic, even with that giant chip, which never quite goes away, and his grandfather ends up giving him a blood transfusion, and that's how he gets the super soldier serum, and actually his grandfather blesses
really
him with his
poetic.
superpowers.
It's actually
We're
very-
ruining it, but it's so good.
It's Eli's he's not nearly as good of a superhero as he wants to be, and that's kind of his fun. Is he really he
wants to
and
be so
Kate
much
are
better
really,
than he is and could.
Yeah.
He wants to be
ever kinda
Kate
be.
Bishop, so and they have a great relationship.
Eli and
that-
Kate are really great together because
they're
he's
really-
like, I'm the Captain America. I should be the leader, and she's like, I got this.
Yeah, you're.
And then she
You do that.
Then she's like, yeah, you're the leader, but I'm actually gonna go be the leader.
yeah, I'm gonna actually you say whatever you need to say.
Yeah, you're the leader by title. I'm the leader by practice.
And then Iron Lad, who I really like. Iron Lad's a character I wish I had written.
But we could let some of him be surprises.
Some of him's going to be surprises, but suffice to say, we can. He's from the future. He's an Iron Man. He's got an Iron Man suit that he's kind of fanboying in. He's from the future. He doesn't like who he's going to be in the future, and he doesn't like the future that he sees, and he's trying really hard to change it. And that's as far as we're going to get into
Really
Iron
well
Lad.
done. Like, I was like, how is he going to dance through this without spoilers? But you did it well.
Iron Lad is very much the type of character I write. Like, he's a character in the sort of story I write where it's all this like amorphous blob of problem and somebody going, how am I going to solve this and in turn become better while doing it? Even if it's inevitably going to end poorly.
Yeah.
I'm not going to spoil anything about Iron Lad other than that.
It's someone whose fate is like, I don't like this fate, I'm going to change it even though I'm inextricably marching towards that fate.
Yes.
Like, everything I do, it's like, you almost can't get a more tragic story than, that's what I'm going to become. I don't want to become that, but I'm becoming that.
And it leads well into, and again, oh god, and I love that suit is really pretty, and
It is very pretty.
It's the suit of an Iron Man fanboy, and I love that Tony Stark just loathes this kid.
Yeah,
just
and is
hates him.
actually looking at it, going, "How did you, dude? That's actually good. Wow, how did you do that?"
They make a point of it's a much better suit than Tony Stark's suit. It is significantly better suit, and it does not make Tony happy. Because it's from the future.
Technology's different there.
It's iPhone 9. Speaking of tragic fates, let's talk about Cassandra Lang. Little Cassie Lang.
Little Cassie.
So we're now getting into the next characters of the first run. Cassie's
Also, funny story. Back when these comics were coming out, we pretty much thought no one would ever care who Scott Lang is.
wow. Okay.
It's so neat.
Have I told the story of sitting with Sasha Sklar in line to see Independence Day? No. The original Independence Day when it came out way back in the day when we were in high school, and my best friend nerd at the time was Sasha, who's hopefully not watching this because I know he has to be at work. And we were talking about what would be the dumbest movies. We were like, what would be the dumbest movie that you would make if you had to like make something? And we both said at the exact same time with eye contact, Ant-Man. And that was our running joke for years. And every time we say, hey, Sasha, Ant-Man. Fuck if it didn't happen.
And
it was good. It was a fun movie.
It was good. But not only is that a strange choice to get its own movie, if you say Ant-Man in the Marvel Universe, until quite recently, everyone would assume you were talking about Hank Pym. So Scott Lang was this sort of like, also ran, I was an Ant-Man, like, had his past of petty crime.
The third most popular Ant-Man, which is saying something. Slightly under the irredeemable Ant-Man, which is a whole nother story. Which is
okay.
Yes. So Cass has actually shown up in the Marvel movies, which I really like, which is that she's Scott Lang's daughter that he's trying so hard to protect.
And was incredibly adorable.
That adorable little girl eventually says she wants to be just like Daddy, Scott, who's obviously a problem. And by this point, Scott and his wife they're already divorced in the movies, but she's like, if it was bad enough that he was a criminal, being a superhero is worse.
And in the books, because this follows Disassembled,
he's dead.
He's dead.
He died really, he literally was like touching a bomb and went boom and was vaporized. And so Cass, and she's really young, she's only like 15, 14, and she's the youngest member of the group. She wants to be her dad, and that's her whole... She's been sneaking Pym particles. She's been dosing herself.
Particles are they sort of magical substance that make you get bigger and smaller that Hank Pym
and she has been
like her whole life
hiding from she's been doing this her whole life, hoping that she will, like the radioactive Spider-Man style, if I just keep taking this drug that my dad had, I'm going to...
All these kids make great decisions all the time.
Great decisions. And like, and her mom and the cop stepdad are like, if they knew, that would be the end of her. Like, they are really like, your father was a mess and he got himself blown up and this is not good and this is not something that we want for you on any level. So she is just sneaking out of the house, putting on a version of her dad's suit and going out to be, and her character, they call her Stature, and she's using she ends up getting the Giant Man powers where she can go big. I don't think she can go small.
She can go small.
She can go small? It's been a while.
She usually goes big, though.
Yeah, she likes going big. And in fact, one of my favorite things, one of my favorite panels was when she was, I can't remember why she was upset. She was upset because Jessica Jones visited her
mom
and was like, "Hey, these kids are being superheroes," and she's like, "What?" And she was upset
mom.
talking about, well, I have a mother.
Yeah.
And she was upset about it talking with Kate Bishop, and the more and more she talked, the bigger she was growing. So like as the panels show, like she's normal size, slightly bigger, pretty big, and Kate's like, you're growing. Bring it down, a little bit, reel it in.
Which is such a good metaphor. Good metaphors in superpower. The good superpower is a metaphor.
They're such good teens. I love them.
And Cass is really kind of the heart of the team. Like she's the one who's like really into legacy. She's really into like I want to be the superhero my father wanted to be. And it's like this like is really on this path to like kind of I think at the very least prove to her mother that her dad had his shit together. He really didn't.
He didn't.
Boy,
almost more than any other hero did.
And we won't get into all of her weird tragedy and good and bad make out decisions with other members. This is the other great thing about this, like all of these characters end up like pairing up. It's really
hooking up in some way
in a very teenagery way. Teens. There's one other original member. If you remember who, there's one other original member of the Young Avengers that was a very weird choice, which I was very impressed by. Vision.
Oh, I was going to say, are we not talking about Vision?
Oh, no, we're talking about Vision. Vision was interesting, though, because he wasn't a teen version of the Vision. He was the Vision. The Vision joined the Young Avengers.
But he was a rebooted version of the Vision AI.
That had blown up and disassembled.
Which had blown up and disassembled, so he was kind of a
teen Vision.
Because he had, like, no memories, so he was like, I'm learning everything anew, but he was still a hyper-intelligent AI.
He was a hyper-intelligent AI without any hard drive storage at that point of any previous experience. So he was very much these kids are making a lot of sense, and you guys aren't really making a lot of sense, so I think I'm going to go with them and help them and make it so that you guys can't get in their way doing. And so it was this.
And by you guys, you mean the Avengers who were trying to stop them from being young Avengers.
The grown-up Avengers are not cool with this, by the way.
They
They're
were
like, teens putting yourself in danger. Not into it. Don't do that.
They're
like, gonna do it anyway.
Captain America's like, I've seen how this ends. Please stop doing it.
And it's one of the best, and it's one of the best dynamics in these books is that really it's not about them conquering a supervillain. These books are about them gaining their own identity and committing to it and fighting for their identity against their elders. These books are not about stopping mugging. Stopping muggings is background. This is about people discovering power and then owning it.
Well, and that central metaphor of teens with powers, and the thing that makes them so satisfying to read in endless iterations, is that, like, the idea of teenagehood as a time where you find out who you are and what you're capable of, like, maps very nicely onto, like, forming teens and discovering superpowers, because you literally, like, what can I do? What should I do? Who am I? What do I do when faced with problems? How do I solve those problems? How do I relate to other people? Those are all things you can just play out.
And it's like, adolescence in general is just very much like a human's origin story. It's like you're like,
well, that's quote of the day.
Like you're a kid. You follow what your mom and dad say. You just like kind of trust them implicitly.
Puberty is the worst superpower.
And then it really is. But then you hit prepubescence and you're like what's going on with my body? And then you get into adolescence and you're like, who am I becoming? Where am I going? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? How do I become the person that I'm going to become?
And boy, you are that person for the rest of your... I mean, like, there's some alterations, but man, you are that person for the rest of your...
Well, I don't know. I made some pretty big alterations post-seminary, but...
Post-seminary, yeah, well, I think that was the end of your year one.
That was my Matt Key year one.
Lightning.
With like a Bible in one hand and just like, maybe?
A Bible in one hand and a copy of the Avengers in the other.
Yeah, I was like, I'm looking at the Avengers. The Bible's over here. Like, I'm trying to figure stuff out.
You do.
There's a lot to figure out, guys.
You do both, okay. But
yes.
But the thing that my brain has just completely turned to mush. I had a whole.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail us.
Final member.
Vision, adolescent,
teens stopping you.
Adolescent,
teen superhero,
heroics. With the teens.
Yeah, which is that's right. It was like there's a polar opposite. Thank you for bringing me back. There's a polar opposite version of this book, which is Kingdom Come.
Oh,
which is Kingdom Come is all about. Well, I mean, it's not all about, but one of the big themes in Kingdom Come is that children are terrible. It's a Kingdom Come is a book
It's a
for
DC
for
comic.
older men. It is, or older men and women. It's not quite that, although it is very much it is a book about a guy and his grandfather and there's very manly men doing manly things and farming. It's a lot of farming and lightning in that book.
You're really selling it.
Kingdom Come is Kingdom Come. Every now and then you're in the mood for the sorrow and the pity, and that is a book for that moment where you're like, I'm going to sit down and watch the sorrow and the pity. And it is huge and it is epic and it is a big DC book, but it is definitely not a book about youth. It is a book where youth is kind of the enemy, where the children have come in and ruined everything, and there's a lot to love about Kingdom Come, and we will do at some point talk about all the things that are great that it does, and its beautiful art and its beautiful story of redemption. But it is a book about children terrorizing the world, about how the world is terrorized by youth, and how the world fears youth and doesn't understand it. Even if we've been there, we just don't understand it. It is you can never know what it is to be walking into the world that someone else has made. It's just too late. And every glimpse I get of my poor under 23 friends walking this world, like, how do you deal with what you've been given? But these books celebrate youth, and not a nostalgic youth, and not the youth, not even necessarily not the youth of the writers, but like a
Just
very
youth
modern
conceptually.
No, I mean it's a very modern take. These are real kids, and they're not the kids of the 1980s.
But it's very much like bless them and all their mistakes.
Yeah,
like,
no, and lets them be a mess, just like we were a mess. And it's such a wonderful look at a little bit more of a modern take on youth. And it's hard to find people writing about. It's very easy to write about the kid you were. It's very hard to write about the kids you see around you in any real or honest way. And I think this book does it really
So
well.
I want to ask this question. Star Pilot 6 says, Kingdom Come is the book for the type of people who write, millennials are ruining everything by buying avocado toast and not houses and fabric softeners. Is that the type of thing that Kingdom Come is?
That's one of the things that Kingdom Come is it's about people who say that.
Yes.
It doesn't necessarily mean it's a book for them, but it is about older adults dealing with the world they've made and the decisions they've made. It's a book about old men and women. And it is a book about everything's wrong, and now I'm going to, even though I'm kind of responsible for everything that's happened, I'm going to impose my will to make it back the way it was. And whether or not that's really possible or true, and it's not a dumb book.
Well, yeah, stories about genuine maturity are rare in comics because we like to keep things in sort of a stage of eternal youthfulness, which means they can be more valuable if you're actually like telling a story about people in different phases of life.
Yeah, and it's an older man. The story is told all in Kingdom Come entirely from the perspective of an older man who is literally being asked to sit in judgment on the world. And it is a man who's been like, there's an archangel who appears before him and says, "This is the world you've made. Does it end or does it continue? And does it deserve to?" And it's an interesting book. Yeah, the only reason I'm being giving it any crap right now is because from the perspective of a youth story, it is the polar opposite. It does sit in negative to that. But it is a great read.
It is.
And beautiful art.
Oh, Alex
So-
Ross. Oh.
Alan Heinberg and Jim
pretty.
Chung do the book for what,
12 issues.
12
issues,
Feels like more, but
plus some spin-offs.
they did. There's a few other there's a series of one-shots called The Young Avengers Presents that sort of focuses on each of them.
A little bit of origin, which is really nice, and it's all. I think, if I recall, those are all narrated by Jessica Jones, who has a lot of. She's the one adult in the Marvel U who kind of is like,
These kids are all right.
they're fine, and you guys are, and like she's telling the Avengers, you guys are making it worse, and you've just got to kind of let these, you've got to create boundaries, but you have to let them be young and stop desperately trying to turn them into adults. And it's as she is like the patron saint of Marvel fuck ups.
So good. It's so good.
That's a good way to put it.
She is. Yeah, I love Jessica.
So
Jones.
once their main run ended, they pop around a couple places. They
Dark
meet up-
Reign. There's a Dark Reign book that's. I mean, like, it's weird.
I haven't read that one.
That's when they were having the new Masters running around. There was like the Young Masters of Evil, which was
Oh, was there? Oh.
way too pertinent for for this day and age. But Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was basically like
Yeah.
a bunch of like young hip neo-Nazis come together and build a superhero team. Not a supervillain team, a superhero team. And the Young Avengers like, oh, fuck you. It's great. That's not my favorite book, though. They tie up with the Runaways for a while.
There's a 3-parter, I think, or something in one of the events. Which was a Civil War?
It might have been Civil War.
Or a Secret Invasion?
There's maybe Secret Invasion.
Yeah. Because I know Hulkling had some problems during Secret Invasion because he's a Skrull.
Because he's a Skrull, yeah.
So essentially, they would sort of check in on these characters with like a one-shot or a 3-parter during these other major events in between runs, which is a thing that you're, as a company, you want to keep playing with these toys and give them something to do.
And it was great because it created a whole bunch of themes between the different young teams, and there was a whole bunch of young teams. There was and the Young Avengers were very.
Thank you.
The Runaways were an
Civil War.
interesting polar opposite because when you put these two teen groups together, the Young Avengers and the Runaways, what you get is privilege versus a lack of privilege. And you get these kids who are like, we can't even imagine dealing with the sort of support you're getting. Don't you give us shit? And it's and
Even though there's individual members of both teams who
they
come
get
from different
well, and
backgrounds.
then they get
but
along. Though
Yeah,
the great thing is that it's less of that beat 'em up, and more like figuring out why there are two teams to begin with.
We should probably point out who the Runaways are, just in case some people haven't.
Have we?
If you haven't watched, we talked about them a bit during our
Brian
Brian
K.
Vaughn
We did,
episode.
okay.
But the Runaways are a group of teens who discover that their parents are all part of this secret underground evil organization trying to take over the world, and they decide, we're not going to be our parents, we're going to run away. And then they all discover that they all have their own superpowers in some capacity based on the heritage of who their parents are.
But they do, and they do a lot of superheroing in the sense that they try to do good when they can, but mostly the Runaways are about like trying not to get split up and sent away from each other, and try to remain together as a team and figure out who they are.
Despite the clashes
and
of
survive.
personality.
They
and survive,
create a
yeah.
family, and then the book is basically about every good-intentioned attempt to destroy that family,
Yeah.
and a series of good-intentioned events that they just keep trying to they're like, no, all we want is to stay together, and there's like no way for them to really do that. It's a beautiful book. It's
Yeah,
very,
Runaways is
very
great.
character.
So like mixing the Runaways with the Young Avengers is a great.
And then the last group was the Avengers Academy, which was in the middle of all this. The Avengers actually decided, and because of the Young Avengers and Runaways, really, that they're going to basically open a school for superheroes, so that they can train you, they can kind of get a handle on all this, and sort of create a system where they don't feel quite as responsible.
And this is post
Goes really well.
This is post Civil War, when the Registration Act actually goes into place, and America is kind of sponsoring, like, if you want to be a superhero, go to Avengers Academy, and we're gonna am I wrong?
Distinguish it from the Initiative, which was
was-
very
Okay,
much
maybe
like,
that's what I'm thinking of.
you
Is the
might be
Initiative
like,
difference from?
A little.
It is.
Okay.
Only a little though. There's
The
the Avenger Academy.
I love this book.
It's
Like,
it's
there's
another
a
really
twist
good
at the
teen
end of
book.
issue 1 that I do not want to tell you about, but it's
No.
so wonderful.
But all these kids, even though they're on different teams and they have different things that they're working towards, they all know each other, which is what I really like. Is they're all getting along. They all get that they are kids in this world, and because of that, they all share that very interesting bond where they've just decided that they're all going to be really supportive of each other. And it's a
within the
fascinating.
confines of like interesting fireworks. There will of course
there's
always
interesting
arise.
firework, but everybody's always tweeting each other.
They're same team. Yeah.
Yeah, they're all in text. They're all in a text conversation with each other all the time. Like everybody under 25 in the Marvel U. There's a graphic in one of them. And, we're about to get into where the Young Avengers become the Runaways.
So we should clarify. Avengers Initiative was basically every state had their own team of Avengers. It was and the fallout from the Civil War event in the Marvel Universe. The idea of like, okay, well, if some people are going to register as superheroes and be official, we should go all out with this. We should have like Avengers teams for
Team in
everywhere.
every state.
And train them.
Yeah.
And give them training.
And-
Avengers Academy is a little different because it comes out of sort of that's very much a book about like about second chances, because oddly enough it's run by Hank Pym, who has, we're gonna say, a checkered past and just leave it there.
We'll leave it there.
That's its own episode.
That's its own episode.
It's its own episode.
But he sort of, like, this was in the wake of, basically the bad guys. There's a point in the Marvel Universe where the bad guys got to run things. When he said Dark Reign earlier, there was a period of time where the bad guys were kind of in charge. They got to put their face on everything.
That's post-Secret Invasion. So, like, Secret Invasion leads to Dark Reign.
These are sort of the, like...
Big Marvel event books that are
the last
fascinating.
10 or 15 years have been marked by
Marvel
these sort of,
event
like,
books every 6 months.
Yeah.
It's a problem.
Some are great.
I never thought I would get event fatigue, and then Secret War happened, and I was like, all right, I'm on board for Secret Wars. They're rebooting the universe, whatever.
Great.
But then that was immediately followed by Civil War 2, and I was just like, I can't.
Event fatigue is a
I'm
term
done.
from comic book fandom, where we are all kind of collectively discussing the rhythm of comic book storytelling and how to do all the good things while avoiding some of the bad things. And event fatigue is sort of this sense of, like, if the world is having an earth-shattering event if the world is always ending, then nothing has meaning, and it's confusing, and it's too impossible to keep up with, or it's too expensive, and all the shocks have worn away because they're so constant.
And if you don't have time to let these characters breathe, then you just stop caring when things happen to them because you haven't read a book about them in a year because you've only read books that they are in about other things.
Now, an excellent counterpoint is that a lot of times when we talk about the most interesting and memorable stuff in Marvel, we're talking about event books.
And a good event is a great event is a great event.
And like, we complain that events have tie-ins that exist for no reason, but we're literally sitting here talking about stories with the Young Avengers that only exist because they were like 3 issues that tie into Civil War. Why not?
And it is like any good thing. It is
Everything has two
very
sides.
complicated.
It's the worst.
It is like any interesting thing. It's extremely complicated. And one of these tie-ins was, of course, the Young Avengers who were still running around. They got captured at one point during one of these. It was during Dark Reign, and Marvel Boy, who's a character we're about to get into, was like running. He was being psychically controlled, and there was all this weird. And they had the whole instance and weird connection with him. He is a young superhero-ish character who doesn't have any. Okay, so we're going to start talking about.
Is this before or after Children's Crusade? Because that's it's kind of a side note. The second major Heinberg Chung, Alan Heinberg and Jim Chung run on Avengers on these characters is collected not usually as Young Avengers but as Avengers: The Children's Crusade. I love this book. It had a lot of shipping problems. It was very late.
I was about to say, not the fun kind of shipping problems.
Yep.
The bad kind of shipping problem.
Yeah. Shipping is a big part of my life. As it turns out, my fangirl and retailer sides are equally.
Well, we're about to enter what I usually call Young Avengers: The Tumblr era.
Oh, I love it.
That's a good way
The
to
Young
put
Avengers
it.
were just waiting for social media to exist for them. They were ahead of their time. So the Avengers: The Children's Crusade was like an 8 or 9 part miniseries.
I believe it was 9.
9, written by Alan Heinberg, illustrated by Jim Chung, and you don't need to know a ton to go into this other than this is my imaginary headcanon for what Alan Heinberg did. I think Alan Heinberg looked at House of M and went, I know what to do. And he wrote a book about these characters that he created with Jim Chung and knows and loves deeply, where basically, if I'm remembering this like Billy and Teddy are like, Billy I think specifically is like, Scarlet Witch hasn't been seen since all the House of M stuff, and he's like, we can get her back. We can find her.
We can find her. I need to talk to my mom. I need to find out if she is my mom.
My soul mom. Yeah.
My soul mom.
I need to find out if she's really my mom and where she is and what happened to her. And like that sort of, what I love is that it kind of puts on him that fanboy side of the rest of us of like, we want to find and redeem
your
Scarlet
mother.
Witch. Like,
find what's.
I can remember getting to the end of House of M and like that one panel, like she's kind of disappeared and living in the mountains or whatever. Like and I was just like, but what happened? Did she ever come back? Where did
there's one amazing
years,
Hawkeye issue where there's one issue of Hawkeye. Oh, it's an Avengers issue where because Hawkeye was dead and she brings him back to life and he is like just horrified by this. And so he just vanishes for a year looking for her. He spends Hawkeye, the hot guy, Clint Barton, just to sum this up, and he finds her in this mountain town in Europe, not knowing who she doesn't know who she is. She's like sort of written herself this other life, and I won't spoil, but like, and he shows up, is inappropriate, and leaves, and it's just like, okay, that was way too much for me. I'm just gonna not deal with this anymore.
But so Heinberg makes this sort of like that's their specific quest, and it goes in all kinds of directions. And the hilarious Sound of Music joke between Billy and Teddy from right at the beginning has for some reason stuck with me for years.
I forgot about that.
Because he's really funny, is Alan Heinberg. Thank God Kieran Gillen was the person who stepped into those shoes. They were big shoes.
They were big
shoes,
platform shoes with heels, and yeah, there was a lot going on.
Stylish ones.
Very hard to walk in.
So that book kind of stands alone. It's drawing on all that other stuff, but you read it just for that particular adventure, and like a lot of great stuff happens for these characters, and some sad stuff happens, as tends to happen in stories, It's well worth reading, but that was the next like long chunk with these guys until.
So this thing happened is we take a couple years off, and we actually decide to age these characters. Is the interesting thing. They've gotten a little older. Most of them, like Captain America, finally came down and said, "Knock it off," and they basically did. They all went into retirement for a while. There was no Wiccan, there was no Hulkling, there was no Patriot. Kate kind of, but like that's Kate. Two other interesting things happened in this mid-time while these kids got a little older, which were Loki, the god of mischief from the movies that we all love so much, turned into a little boy. He got reincarnated. He sacrificed himself to save Asgard and reincarnated as a god, as gods can.
A book called Siege. Or The Siege?
I think it was just Siege when Asgard appeared over Bruxton, Oklahoma.
Yeah,
correct?
it
had been over Oklahoma for a while, but yeah.
It's good, but it's such intense continuity porn that I just wouldn't recommend reading it unless the notion of the other secret origin of the century, is like exciting to you.
Siege is worth reading just for the beautiful art.
It's beautiful art.
It ties into a bunch of stuff, and you don't need to necessarily know.
It's very it's knotted up like a fishing net, but it led to another book that we'll eventually talk about on the show because I'm going to do a Loki episode at some point because I love that.
You just missed a great Taliesin Jaffe.
Yeah,
sorry,
it was my Loki heroine, Loki in the vein. So Kid Loki is kind of.
We call him Kid Loki, to distinguish him from Loki before he was a kid.
All the other versions of Loki.
Is not evil. He's a good kid who's got the superpower that he's really good at lying, and everyone thinks he's a supervillain. There's my favorite Kid Loki with his not girlfriend, who's a whole other issue.
And he looks sort of teenage here.
Yeah, he's a little older. They play him as like 12.
Yeah.
That's a bit shippy there.
Yeah.
And this is also when Marvel starts to figure out that they have Tumblr fans that are writing fan fiction, like romantic fan fiction, and are shipping. And they're like, this is when Marvel starts to learn that this is a thing, and they kind of start pushing in this direction.
I'm excited because the book you're talking about is one that I haven't read yet.
Oh, which one?
I haven't read Journey into Mystery.
Journey into Mystery is amazing. Journey into Mystery creates Kid Loki as one of the most interesting characters. He is the John Constantine of the Marvel Universe. He's like baby John Constantine of the Marvel Universe. He's walking around solving and saving everybody and doing it by just kicking the ball down the field. And it's just like, look at that problem. I'm going to solve it. See, that's not going to be a problem for at least a year.
Short-term solutions with Kid Loki.
Short-term solutions to impossible problems. Welcome to Kid Loki. He has a conversation with his brother, with Thor, at one point that I really love, which is this is in Journey into Mystery. It's Journey into Mystery, where Loki is arguing with people about his own origin on Twitter, and so people keep calling me a troll, and they're just wrong about this. And Thor's comment is, "Where did you get that Stark phone?" And he's like, "Oh, I won it in a bet." And it was like, "You won it in a bet?" "Yeah, with a bunch of trolls. I won it in a bet." And I'm like, "Did you cheat?" It's like, "Yes, but the rules of the game include cheating." And like, you're very, oh boy. That's the kid.
This is, of course, extra funny because Loki is part troll.
So, due to circumstances that get difficult, that I won't get into so you can read the book, the Kid Loki that's in the book is not actually Kid Loki. The Kid Loki ends up creating a new team of Young Avengers. The Loki in the book is just pretending to be the Kid Loki. You do kind of need to know that. You don't need to know why. But he is both kind of good, but kind of evil, but you can never quite tell. He's just kind of selfish. I would make the argument
that he also kind of doesn't know.
He doesn't really know either. He's a giant mess. He doesn't know if he wants to be a villain or a hero. He doesn't even know if he can be either. He is basically a 12-year-old mobster. He is just a scary, bacon-obsessed. As he describes it, if you like Game of Thrones, I'm Tyrion. And if you can get these, it's like you like Tyrion. I'm Tyrion. That's my superpower.
He actually says it in the book.
Says it in the book. And then there's Marvel Boy. And this is the other character I have to bring up as Novar.
Marvel Boy?
Oh, Marvel Boy.
So
what Taliesin's going through right now is cast members that you're going to meet the next time there is a proper Young Avengers run.
Yes.
And I don't I'm missing a piece of this puzzle where I don't know how he gets onto the Young Avengers. There's a couple times they reference stuff that he did that I'm not sure where that came from.
It is the first 5 pages of the new Young Avengers book, and it is a magical 5 pages that we will discuss in a second. But Marvel Boy is a teenage Kree from another dimension. Now,
Not just an alien.
Not just an alien, but he was on a Kree ship from a higher level. We were talking about the higher and lower universes. He's from a higher universe where the Kree have kind of got a much bigger empire. They're still a little iffy. And he was just a member of a ship. He was a crew on a ship that accidentally breached the reality core, and his ship kind of crashed. And
when does he come into comics? 90s?
Marvel, in the 1990s, in a book just called Marvel Boy by Grant Morrison. It was a limited run. It's a great. There we are.
Morrison.
It's a great book. He's not only is he an other dimensional Kree, he's also kind of Spider-Man. They've actually genetically experimented on him the same way that Spider-Man, except instead of a spider, he has cockroach DNA.
Ew.
So he has the powers of a cockroach.
Didn't know.
Oh yeah. He has cockroach
What exactly
DNA.
are the powers of a cockroach?
He can crawl. He's super strong and tough, and he's also got other genetic augmentations. He can make his fingernails explode, so he can
Grant Morrison.
He can rip off his fingernails and spit them, and his saliva is mind control.
That I knew.
He can spit at people, and if his saliva gets in their system, he can actually control them with his mind.
I forgot about that.
Yes, they actually.
Is that a cockroach power?
No, it's just more weird genetic experimentation.
I was like, wait, I'm suddenly more terrified of cockroaches than I've ever been. He's
super strong, super fast, has cockroach DNA. And has tons of alien guns and an alien ship and understands alien tech. Marvel Boy, Novar is really scary.
He's the VARR.
Yeah, Novar. He crashes on Earth. His crash ship is immediately found by a character I really like named Midas, who's a collector of cool tech, and he's an arms dealer in the Marvel Universe, who immediately dissects every other survivor dissects everyone he's ever known, sells his ship for scrap, and then keeps him alive for experimentation. Novar gets out, but is now on what he considers to be a hostile alien world, and spends his first year on Earth just trying to destroy the Earth and ready it for a Kree invasion, including carving a giant FU into New York.
You will remember from our cosmic episode, maybe, that the original Captain Marvel was sort of sent here to prepare Earth for the Kree invasion and decides to stay and protect us. So again, we're doing variations on a theme.
Marvel ends up in a weird relationship with a villain named Oubliette. Who's like a dominatrix. Marvel Boy was like a dominatrix, a daughter of Midas with a villain. He gets weird about the Earth and decides that he's gonna he kind of turns into a punk rock superhero-ish, and then slowly just realizes he understands nothing, and then ends up joining the Avengers for a little while because he's kind of powerful, but ends up dating some hippie girl in New York. As he kind of figures out his stuff, and that ends really poorly because he kind of turns on. Well, he then turns on the Avengers for the Kree kind of say we need you to do this thing, even though the Avengers say no, and he does it, and it ends really badly, and he's banished from the Kree Empire and from Earth, and then he joins the evil Avengers when there's during the Dark Reign, ends up
the bad guys have
the bad guys, and because he doesn't really know the difference, and he's like, well, I'm an Avenger, that's good. And ends up getting manipulated and sleeping with bad. He just makes bad decisions with where he puts his junk, and then is now ostracized from everybody and ends up living on a satellite in his spaceship above Earth because he can't go anywhere else, and he's become obsessed with Earth culture, and he's got a vinyl collection, and he is he won't leave Earth because he really likes Earth music and Earth art, and is into it.
Ultimate hipster, but
super hipster
in a fun way, not in the pejorative, in the he likes his music and he knows it very well.
Yeah, and so one night he gets drunk at a club and ends up picking up Kate Bishop, and they have a drunken. This is the origin of the next generation of Young Avengers. Is he and Kate Bishop have a drunken one night stand, and while they're trying to debate where to go to get breakfast, the Skrulls attack. And
Young Avengers.
Kate's never been so happy in her life, and he's excited because he's got a superhero girlfriend. And they get dumb together, and it's great. Meanwhile, while she's tweeting all this, literally, and I also they have their own version of Tumblr in
we have
the
now
Marvel
arrived at Kieran Gillen and Jamie McKelvey's
run.
Young Avengers #1.
Welcome.
This is
2013.
2013, because the whole book takes place in a
I can't
year.
believe this was 4 years
New
ago.
Year's to New Year's. I know. I know. I feel it. The whole thing is chronicled by fans on Yambler, which is their version of Tumblr.
Yambler.
This book becomes weirdly interactive. Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, hashtag. Like, I know that sounds really kitschy.
It sounds obnoxious.
It's not. There's a whole 5-page spread in one of the books where it's just the Instagram feed. It's just Loki and Captain and Marvel Boy's Instagram feed.
Yeah.
Of showing where they're going, all the stuff they're doing. And this is how they do the episode rundowns, is through a Tumblr
The recaps
feed.
that start each issue to sort of let you know what's going on.
Our Tumblr feeds. It's great. And they actually use text and social media as a way of being Avengers. It's really fascinating. It's a tool they use to be better superheroes, which I think is great. So, Wiccan and Hulkling. Now we're going to get to the real deal of what happens. This book also ends up with a Spotify playlist, because the creators are really big music fans, and I love that with this book you can go there's one of my favorite, Loki of Asgard.
I love it.
Likes this picture, Young Avengers 2013.
He liked his own picture. He's the best.
He is a god of evil.
I cannot wait actually to reread this book over time with technology changes, because I suspect it is going to hold up as an example of using these techniques for internal, almost what do you call epistolary novels?
Yes.
Told through primary documents. That sense ideally will hold up. We'll see.
Sometimes things age poorly because they're so obviously of their time that they kind of fall apart, and sometimes you double down on the time that you're in and freeze it in amber, and this is going to be such a great artifact of that specific moment in time.
Yeah.
And I think it's really going to hold because of that. This book, I love both of them, but this book is so good.
So we get to the early, they're mostly early 20-somethings now.
Yeah.
Or they're getting there.
19 to 21.
19 to 20.
1920, there's a 21st birthday that happens in the book.
Yeah. And this is when a different set of creators come onto the book. You've heard us talk about them because we're borderline obsessed.
Borderline, I'm full on Twitter stalker.
Kieran Gillen and Jamie McKelvey, who have worked together several times now and are a very good team. They've mostly done independent work together in the form of Phonogram and The Wicked and the Divine. So you will see a preoccupation with youth and music, but they also had done a ton of superhero work. Kieran Gillen especially wrote a bunch of books at Marvel for years.
Good stuff.
Yeah, long runs on some of the big name superheroes, and this was them sort of combining the sides of their work and doing their own vision of this superhero team, but that incorporates their interests and styles and mixes the team composition up a little bit.
It does, and it's about, whereas the first book was really about being a teenager, this is about being a young adult. And that's what I really like about this book, is it's a very, very clear, and just from the get-go, the fact that you have a superhero having a one-night stand and it being
notably on that first page, it's Kate Bishop kind of narrating events, and she goes part of me thinks I should feel bad about that.
I can
the
pull
rest
it
of me
up
thinks
for you.
that part is stupid.
Yeah, here it is right there.
It's oh, there we go. I'm in a bed. It's not mine. This is new. I can hear the shower. He's in the shower. Him. For a second, some part of me thinks I should be ashamed. And then she tucks her hair behind her ear and says, "I think that part of me is really stupid."
Yeah. And it's such a and like a lot of there was a chunk of the readership that really did not like this.
What? Really? Why?
Yeah, because they felt that this
It made her too adult all of a sudden.
well, they felt like it was not the way to handle a superhero, and while I can
that's not an objection I remember. Yeah,
understand their point, because not every superhero story is this story. This is a story about This is a story about being a young adult, and you're either going to be true. This is not a story about a superhero who isn't a young adult. It's about young adults with superpowers. And you're either going to tell a story about young adults and they're going to be behaving like young adults, or they're not. And immediately setting the tone for this book for these are kids who are going out and they're having sex and they're dealing with their reality and partying and drinking, and we're not going to pretend that's not who these kids are to make you feel better about we're not going to pretend that these are different kids.
What's funny is I remember this scene without any memory of like whether they had been drunk or not. Like,
Well, there's actually they don't really ever explicitly say it. In fact, there's one of the running jokes at the end of the book is a 2-issue rave party that they throw for all the teen superheroes in the Marvel. You have a big New Year's party together, and the running joke is, "I'm going to have some more of that punch that is definitely not alcoholic." Nope. Not alcoholic at all. No, that's weird. This is just really good fruit juice. I know. I feel so. It's like amazing. I feel just a little weird, and all I've been drinking is fruit juice this entire evening. Like,
it's an interesting book for me, in part because like I was like a sheltered good girl teen, so a lot of my like favorite teen stuff is stuff where they don't like get drunk and have sex.
Sure.
I couldn't relate to that. Like
Same. Same.
But what's interesting for me is that's why I get even more invested when I find stories that handle that in ways that really catch me and really interest me. And that's what this felt like. It wasn't that they were like, "We're cool because we're drinking." It was more like, these are real decisions that people make.
These are decisions.
Your mileage is going to vary. It's presented like, if you saw the art on that page, she's not like emerging like he's in the shower. It's not exploitative. This is her story. These are the decisions she's making, and they feel authentic to the character. There were moments in this book where it hurt to watch people make bad decisions.
Oh, such bad decisions, and especially for poor. And like immediately after that little bit, he comes out, and Marvel Boy immediately puts on "Be My Baby" on vinyl from his like, and she's like, "Oh my God, this is like my parents' music. This is weirdly hot."
That made me
Mm-hmm.
laugh because I was raised on oldies, so I was like, does not everyone in the universe know this song? And then I was like, right, young people.
Right.
Yeah, and he's a vinyl collector. Like, he's got like actually in his space station, I'm trying to like, he's got a Metropolis the movie poster, black and white Metropolis the movie poster, a beautiful vintage sound system, a Spirited Away original Japanese poster. This is Marvel Boy's bedroom in space. Yeah.
And for the record, like, I'm not presenting this opening as like one of those bad decisions, depending on your reading of whether they were super drunk or not. It's just interesting because it's like, no, that's
there were a lot
well
of people.
within the realm
There were a
of-
lot of people who were like, "This is a bad." And it was like, no. Sometimes you meet the love of your life in a drunken hookup. Like this is just such a.
And they are in fact consenting adults.
They are consenting adults, and they're. It's just acknowledging that this is a thing that happens, and it's not bad or good. It's just a thing that happens. And she does have that moment of like, "Is this bad?" And she's like, "No, I'm not having a bad time.
Like,
He's
yeah,
not
this
having
is
a bad
fun.
time."
Yeah.
And wherever this goes, and they are together for a year from this hookup, which is kind of spectacular. And he is awkward and wonderful.
He's a relationship train wreck.
He is. He is the Marvel Universe's relationship train wreck. Oh, some people should not be given access to.
Peter Parker's like, "Wow, guy."
Yeah, no, it's there. Oh man, I wish like the number of poor relationships he's had literally comes back to haunt them and nearly kill them.
Yeah,
like you could make an army of his angry
He's
ex-girlfriends.
kind of got a Ramona Flowers thing going. I guess.
Oh yeah, he's got a Ramona Flowers thing going.
Reference Scott Pilgrim at some point.
They do.
Oh, I forgot they did
They
that.
do reference Scott Pilgrim in
Like
the book.
later on in the run, they're like something Scott Pilgrim, and they're like, the book was better than the movie. It always is.
Yeah. Because he's such a snob.
So this is still a superhero book.
It
Dylan
is.
and McCalby, what do? They assemble a team with the help of a certain classic Avengers character?
Well, So Wiccan and Hulkling have been having some problems. Relationship-wise. Not big problems, but like they're going through some renegotiation, and Wiccan.
You're in a tough spot if you write Wiccan and Hulkling, because they're such groundbreaking and important representation.
Oh, yeah.
That there's a real limit to how much you can hurt them before the rest of us want to climb through the screen.
But boy, they did it, and they did it well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love what they do to the relationship in this book. Wiccan's sort of feeling really guilty because Hulkling's parents are not around anymore. Tries to use his superpowers to bring Hulkling's
his reality-altering
mother
superpowers.
back.
Yeah.
The way that you're not supposed to do things.
And especially if you're Scarlet Witch's son, you should remember to
really
have some
know.
boundaries about how you use your powers to make wishes come true.
And yeah, you're like really watching this going, oh God. And thank God that he like thinks to do this and does it in less than 6 hours. Because if he'd taken 7, he would have realized this was a terrible idea. And he accidentally pulls an interdimensional parasite into his universe that eats teenage superheroes. And one of its powers is that it can turn all adults against, like it has this parasite has a reality altering power. I'm not giving away too much. This is like
page 1 basically, yeah.
It makes it so that all the superheroes, in a way that is not a metaphor for real life on any level, ignore everything that the teen heroes say and just assume everything's fine. And so there's this parasite that looks like their mom going, like, that goes to all their parents and like, these kids are a problem. We need to like ground them, and I need to feast upon their souls until they are nothing but the skeletal corpses and remains. And the parents are like, yeah, I don't know why the kids are being such a problem about this. They really need to shape up. Like, and every adult is basically under the thrall of this creature. And then it also resurrects all of their parents and turns them into villains. So the Young Avengers are literally fighting their parents at every step of the way. And anybody over a certain age, and it's a little amorphous very specifically,
it sounds
is a threat.
heavy-handed, but it's so good.
It's really good.
As Kate Bishop says, great, more metaphor. It's such a good book.
And like the mother character even says something like, she's feeding up on meta narratives or something like that. Like, what was that line? She's like, "Oh, there's so much meta to eat," or something like that. Like,
well, there's
like
a lot
some of the illustrations in this book, some of the artwork in this book is like
so
some of the best. Like,
I know there's one
it's so novel and out there and weird and game changing.
That's
like,
the great thing is like watching Jimmy McKelvey do
about.
Superhero comics.
Yeah.
Even if it were a standard story, it would still look like something new.
I pulled up one of my favorite panels.
Oh, you already did? I was going to say,
time.
because I can pull it up too. I know the one you're talking
This
about.
one?
Yeah. So
this is one of my favorite panels of all time.
at one point, and I pointed this out to you. This is MJ. This is Mary Jane's club in Spider-Man's ex-girlfriend's club
So what you see here is, I'm gonna have to get up to, but you've got like
Marvel Boy bursting through the window to save them.
A key here, and then
numbered.
So what was number 5 again? Oh yeah, number 5.
Pocket Dimension record storage.
So you see here all this stuff, and then like these pictures here correspond with what he's doing here. So
you follow him
the
through.
action.
What an interesting coincidence that the last time we went like bit by bit trying to help read a page, it was Gillen and McKelvey's Wicked and Divine.
They do some really. They're one of my favorites for layout. And like, let's read that whole key. That whole key is kind of spectacular, if you'd be so. Dramatic entrance. Ooh, there's some up here. Part cockroach. Did I mention? Ooh, nice seats. Pocket Dimension, record storage. And Run Up. Young Hearts Run Free, Candy Station. That's the album he's putting on to kill everybody to. I hope Kate's watching right now because he is a flirt. Ick, because they go splat. Oh, great. My shoes are ruined. Dramatic exit.
A thing I love about comics is that I would be incapable of reading this page and going straight down that line.
Oh no, I would go number to number.
It would like physically as a reader, and this is just one of those like, this is because it's comics. You can't do this in other media. But you're confronted with this image and you decide how to navigate it. And in my case, I would have to sort of briefly look at the whole thing, find the number 1, go read the thing, look back at the picture. Find the number 2, go read the thing, look back at the picture. Possibly go back to number 1 to see how it compares. Like, your eye and your brain do so much processing on this page, even though it's just one nice image.
Immediately pull the song up on my phone.
See, I should
do
have.
that too.
And then dramatic exit. Flip to the next page because it is the most Marvel Boy thing on earth. Is he pops out, and then flip one more.
He lands on that.
Yeah, and then what does he say for his? Come with me if you want to be awesome. I love Marvel Boy. Novar is the worst person.
And like he's fully aware of what he's saying.
Oh,
like he's fully aware of the reference that he's making. He's fully aware.
Pop
like
culture junkie.
yeah.
That's
when I was like, oh man, I think I have a crush on Marvel Boy.
Oh yeah, one of their first title cards was "Style over Substance." Was the
It's very interesting because it feels like that title was sort of like a self-consciously defensive statement from Gillen and McKelvey, who make very stylish comics. To sort of like they were like, we're gonna take your criticism and we're gonna make up the whole thematic center of our thing, and you can decide that's authentic or not, but we're doing it and going deep. Like, and it's just this great. It both disarms and affirms criticism. Mm-hmm. It's just the best.
Yeah, it's a wonderful goth friend of mine who thankfully will not be watching this. She wrote some phenomenal essays for one. She's written a series of essays she calls "Vanity is No Sin," which is one of my, and is just talks about the inherent that it is a mistake to ascribe all aesthetics to some sort of inappropriateness in one's character that is in fact can often be a something worth celebrating on this very intense level, and this book does it very well.
Bile Mood says Taliesin is Marvel Boy.
I wish. Well, actually, no. I have not made nearly as Percy as Marvel Boy. I'm definitely. I have not made nearly as enough of a wreck of my love life as he has ever in my life. Never have I seen anyone make so many poor decisions. It's great.
So one of my favorite things about
none of my
this entire
that you know of.
I
don't know why we both
I was about
came
to
up
say,
with that.
Yeah, we were both like,
we're
that
bad
you know
friends.
of. Maybe they are.
Who said what? Yeah.
One of my favorite things about this book is that I feel like it is like just everything about like really awesome punk rock on the page. And I don't even know what that means, but I feel like I'm reading punk rock. Not the history of punk rock, not like punk rock somehow actualized as a comic is how I feel this entire run is. Does that make any sense?
It's story that can also be a mood, story that can be a reaction, ideas that are text, and text that are ideas, and all of its images.
And it's never even like I wanted to say it's youth and revolt, but it's not, because they're not revolting. It's there's a great comment at the very end of the book, and I'm going to mention it now because it'll color a lot of what you read in a good way. Is before you save the universe from a supervillain, you have to save the universe. I'm paraphrasing really poorly, and I apologize. You have to save the universe from yourself first. And that's what this book is these kids saving the universe from themselves. And truer with some of them than others, especially Loki, who is like busy saving the universe from himself, and Wiccan, who
he even
realizing
says that a few times.
Oh yeah, realizing that he's a huge problem.
We haven't 100, and we're not super going into how they assembled a team for this. What's lovely is in a callback to the founding of the original Avengers, Kid Loki is the one who brings the Young Avengers together in this particular incarnation.
And there's still one character we haven't mentioned.
And that was my next stop.
So bring it to one of the two final members of the Young Avengers, because we have to get our last two members in.
Well, this is the reason that Taliesin said I was kind of on theme today.
Yeah.
Because one of the other like Marvel characters who I love the way that they adopted a bunch of like Marvel orphans.
Oh, very
book.
much so.
They were like, that Grant Morrison Marvel boy, he seems interesting.
He ain't doing nothing.
This Kid Loki that we just did, or at least Gillen did.
Over there. He ain't doing nothing.
You know who else seems really cool and isn't doing anything? America Chavez.
Boom.
Ms. America. Who was created in the pages of a Joe Casey book that like
was just weird.
Just
and
sort of
didn't.
I actually don't know her origin. What Joe Casey book was it? Do you remember?
Vengeance?
Yeah, it was like she was a throwaway character on like a team of random throwaway characters. She was dating
with
Ultimate Nullifier,
yeah.
but only contextually. Like it was not even like it was just like this is a personality trait. Is this character is kind of making out with this one? Like it was really not a lot.
I actually haven't read Vengeance, and I need to go back and read to see like where she came from. But they sort of went like her. Yeah,
she was an exciting thing to play with, and
she's super strong. Can she fly? She can fly.
She can fly, I believe, and even more importantly, she can punch and kick her way into other dimensions.
And it makes a star when she does it. It's great.
She is from a dimension that no longer exists, and she's got a little bit of Wonder Woman. She's got a little bit of Wonder Woman
in her. It took me, I didn't notice it for a while, and then I was like, oh,
Banished from Paradise kind of vibe. She's got a weird amount of disappointment with the world that she never really gets into until the very end, and it's kind of, and upon rereading it now, knowing what I know, it changes the book. Like, once you figure out her relationship to a couple characters, and this is a spoiler.
Yeah, we don't want to ruin this.
It changes her forever because she is just mortified by everything. Mm-hmm. And my heart breaks for this girl. She is really, it's rough.
But she is kind of, for this run of Young Avengers, she is kind of our Captain America.
Yeah.
Sort of the, like, strong and brave and upstanding and much quippier, but
and very willing to just rush right into the danger and take it on her own. Yeah.
And just, she's got her own stuff going on in there. Really fascinating character. And then
Thanks, Chief.
Prodigy.
Oh,
right.
I love Prodigy.
So, talking about adopting the orphans of the Marvel Universe.
Poor Prodigy had a really cool power, which was...
Basically, if he touched you, he absorbs all of your knowledge, right?
I think even if he was in, like, the same room with you, like
it's even that strong.
I don't even think,
it's like, hey, I'm hanging out with Taliesin now, and I know everything Taliesin knows. And but it actually goes even deeper than that.
When No More Mutants hit...
House of M.
When House of M hit No More Mutants, he lost his powers. But the weird thing was his brain kind of did a little system spark, and he now remembers everything he ever learned, which is a lot. He has no superpowers. Prodigy has no superpowers, but he knows everything about fighting that Cyclops, Wolverine, that every member of the X-Men knows.
He hung out with the Doctor Strange, so
he
even though he can't do magic,
he knows everything
about it.
He knows dozens of languages. As he puts it, he knows how Scott Summers likes to wipe himself in the bathroom. He knows way too much.
I was making an awe noise about this beautiful image.
Yeah,
just for clarity's sake.
Not for the
Cyclops thing.
Not for the Cyclops thing.
No, I'm like, but like he's a little cold. He's got some emotional problems. He may have kind of been working with a vaguely terrorist mutant organization, so he's kind of on the down low and is hiding. But
where's he? It's the one shot where he gets introduced. It's a call center, right?
Yeah, he's working at a superhero call center. It is a one shot where he and Speed are working at a where he's literally like calling up and like doing. Actually, you know what? I'm going to pull it up.
I think standalone story. Sorry,
people are calling him.
Yeah, it's called The Toll. It's issue 6.
Yeah,
it's issue 6 of Young Avengers.
I love the cover to that.
Yeah, and he's
show
working.
The cover up.
Okay, the cover is beautiful. Issue 6 of Young Avengers. And this is a guest artist for this issue, and every cover of Young Avengers of this run is a work of art. And I love just this like one thing where one of the calls, they go through a series of calls, and it's just technical support. You're speaking to David. What's your problem? Elektra, you say? Can you run? You should run. Seriously,
can you do this while looking at it? Because it's like the visuals make it good.
Seriously, you want to run? Oh, okay. What do you know? What do you have? No, lose the swords. Size trump swords. Flock tactics. If she attacks, you back off. Don't engage until someone can lock. Don't engage until someone can lock down the Psy with a chain. Then go en masse. En masse means everyone at once. Yeah, I know you're a ninja, but just do it. Listen to me. You have a choice: strictly following the ancient code of ninjutsu and being a dead ninja, or going in like I say and maybe being a live ninja. Okay, good luck. Ninjas, you just can't help ninjas.
What the other thing I love about
literally working in a superhero call center,
but it on the DL like shows how much of a badass Elektra is too.
Oh yeah.
Okay, Elektra, run. No, I know you're a ninja. Run.
Run.
Just run. Just run. Get out. Just run. Yeah.
So
And there's just the beautiful action scene happening invisibly somewhere in the world that you have to construct with your mind while you're looking at this phone conversation.
So we've literally just spent 2 hours talking about all these characters that we love, and we really hope, and they were on sale this weekend, I tried to tweet it out, but you can also get them through the Comixology subscription or your local library. They are a great introduction, and it's a great read also if you have a young person in your life. I really dig this.
And as Amy said earlier, like just like going to like Young Avengers #1, the original one from like 2006, is a great jumping on point. You can just read from there all the way through and get 25, 30 issues of great comics that you need no other context for.
Yeah, and that second run is 13 issues. It's just 13
this
issues.
Gillen McKelvey one.
Top to bottom. And then that first one is that 12 issues. It's just
13, 15?
Which one? The McKelvey?
Yeah.
15 issues because there's
Yeah.
there's the after party.
13
The
party
after
party.
Yeah, so
2 issue after party.
And then Children's Crusade is 9.
9.
So it's a nice little compact, self-contained universe, really.
And then you have little branches. You can go follow Kate over in Hawkeye, or you can go read about Marvel Boy in his book, or you can go read about Kid Loki, and then post
Journey
Kid
into
Loki.
Mystery, yeah.
And then Loki,
then really hot
Agent
young
of
adult.
Asgard, or teen Loki.
Yeah.
Because he ages in the book magically, and then gets even worse. It's and
Hot
then
young adult
Miss
Loki.
America gets her own book.
She is currently starring in her own solo title.
And she's also been in the Ultimates.
She's been in the Ultimates also, where she's been doing, and she's a really, I mean, like a fascinating thing. It's another thing. They hop dimensions a lot in this book. You never, other than a piece of cover art, you never see another dimensional version of Miss America. She's the only character that doesn't have any version of herself in any other timeline. There's only one.
Interesting.
Weird.
Well, I gotta reread it.
Yeah. Any comments before we got a minute for...
Emily says, every time Taliesin says go to your library, I die of happiness.
Yay!
Also, deal alert, all the Young Avengers volumes are on Amazon Kindle for $6.50 or less. That is a solid deal.
That is a good deal. I feel weird hawking it, but man, buy some
buy some
comic books.
comics.
This is awesome.
Or get them from your local library.
Borrow them from a friend.
Let's see. Rick James has a comic, or that would be Rick Jones. He does not have a comic, but that is we may have to do like a Rick Jones, because like a Rick Jones episode would actually be an interesting retrospective on Marvel history, because he's been kind of in some of the more important things, but always as a background character. Did House of M hit Young Avenger? I don't read that. No, I'm not seeing anything that we haven't kind of already covered in a lot of ways. Are the Champions the new Young Avengers?
Ooh!
That is Obsidian Butterfly.
Yes.
I would say yes.
I feel like a strong yes. The Champions, because the Avengers name kind of got a little tainted for them, and they kind of dropped it hard.
There's a current book that takes the name of a classic, like sort of C-list or superhero team. So basically, there's a lot of super teams in the Marvel universe, and they ain't all the Avengers. And that's where you get things like the Defenders and the Champions, who've had runs like dozens of issues, hundreds of issues for some of them, but like that usually are notable for not having the same like level of iconic status. But what's interesting is that you get really interesting results when you give those names to new teams, which we're about to see in the Marvel Netflix universe with a new version of the Defenders. They're taking one of these names. Even though they're basically Bendis' New Avengers. But currently in the Marvel universe, a bunch of the younger characters who had been inducted a year or so back into the Avengers have had have had a falling out with their relative grown-ups and gone off to be a team of young people called the Champions.
I should hate this book. I should. Like it is categorically designed to appeal to like these parts of me that I don't want to be sold anything to. Like it's just poking all of these buttons in my soul that I'm like, no, this is a terrible way to get me to pay money, and I love it. It's so good. And I'm almost embarrassed for myself by how much I love this. It's
Champions
got everything.
Has Kamala Khan. It has a new some things have happened with Vision.
A teen girl Vision named Viv, who's amazing.
It's got Nova. A Kid Over You
Sam
heard us
Alexander,
talk a
no,
little bit
uh,
about him in the Cosmic.
It's got Baby
the
Cyclops.
New Hulk.
It's got
Amadeus Cho,
Amadeus Cho.
one of the
Cho.
all-time great sidekicks, who is currently a Hulk.
He's currently a Hulk. It's
The
got
totally awesome
Baby
Hulk.
Cyclops.
I'm not making that
Baby
up. His name
Cyclops.
is-
and
Like from the past.
new Spider-Man.
Miles Morales.
Got
that's
Miles.
right.
Got Miles on the team.
I think the best thing about the Champions for me is that like we're Young Avengers. They were like, we want to be the Avengers, and the Avengers are no more, so we've got to stand in their stead. This team said, the Avengers have screwed up everything. We don't want to be the Avengers. We are the champions, and we're going to make the world right. And it's just a completely different direction. I love that.
And they have a very different take on superheroing. Like it's genuinely a very like there's been a whole bunch of books throughout superhero history that have been about we're gonna find problems and take them out before they become like big issues. Like there's been like this very weirdly like militaristic thought of we find the problem before it becomes a problem kind of thing. This is the opposite of that of like
Very reactive.
we're gonna see if there's issues and go deal with them. But like we're like let us know what you think we should be dealing with, and we're gonna go and like they're communicating with the public in this very interesting way and like solving not supervillain problems. Although sometimes supervillains pop up, it's really interesting.
So, question Jep and Rose asks: Are any of these suitable for kids?
Yes.
How old are your kids?
How old are your kids?
Yeah, I would say like especially for teens, I would say yes.
Definitely teens. Young
Especially
Avengers
the
one,
first Young Avengers,
and then
like-
once they're a little like once you've got a teenager, then Young Avengers 2.
Yeah.
Champions, I think is other
Champions
than
is
yeah.
like oh
Low
my
level
God.
superhero violence and some making out is pretty much the.
Yeah.
I think I've said this before on air, but it was the cutest thing in the universe at the shop. Like a dad and his two boys came in, and the boy like they have a file with the shop, and they literally walked through the door, and one of them went, "It's Champions Day!"
Oh,
And I was like, a
awesome.
phrase no one has ever
ever
said
said
out
in
loud.
the history of
Like,
Marvel Universe.
Yeah.
No one has been that excited
But
for a
those
Champions
kids are like
book.
8 and 9.
That's awesome. Tuna Mater says Rick Jones comics. He was part of the Captain Marvel comic a couple times, right? Marvel, Genus Vel, Avengers
yeah.
Forever. Yes, in fact, Rick Jones
was the human
kind
host
of
ish of
Captain Marvel.
Sabandy.
He would slam his nega bands together. So, yeah.
I love it.
But yes, Tuna Mater, you are correct. We've got 2 minutes.
Whole bunch of notes I have to read. Yeah. Any other questions before we start wrapping up? Because we can start wrapping up.
I don't see anything.
I'm
Someone.
curious, this was really fun. Let us know if you enjoy things where we're
Please.
like, this is just a book we're going to talk about liking.
And let us know what you if you read the book. Let us know what you think about the book. Actually, there's a picture I would love for you to pull up, Chief. Of that looks like a passport. This is the last thing I want to show.
Yes,
is the passport.
yes, I love that.
It should be in the file with
and
a
the
terrible
menu.
name.
There's also the menu.
There's a menu.
I love the menu. Yeah.
They did a lot of interesting things with the title cards for this book, and one of the title cards had this series of stamps of the different dimensions they went to, and they were all real dimensions in the Marvel U. I think I put that in the folder. I'm pretty sure I put it in the folder.
I just noticed that the Wicked and the Divine is framed next to your head
You're welcome.
in your shot.
This was in no
Good
way
job.
completely intentional, was
Yep.
it? I'm trying to see if I have it in here. Oh my god.
Well, while you're looking, Sword Singer says, I'm usually working, so this is my first
There
time
we go.
actually in the chat. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. You can,
Welcome, Sword Singer.
I survived Earth 2149.
Korean
Yeah,
Empire.
Earth Z, sorry.
Earth Z, and then you can see like Earth 1999999 over there is the Marvel Cinematic. It's Cinematic Universe CU, and it's a enjoy the show. Yeah, welcome to Earth Z, which is the zombie universe. Yeah.
Can we make a passport of all of the like topics and things that we
Oh my God,
visit?
that'd be
Oh my
so
god, we
cool.
should do that. Yeah.
And so like there's a lot of in jokes here. Our universe in the in Marvel world, by the way, which is really awful, is 616 because that's easy to remember.
616.
616.
Is
Well-
we're not Earth 1, we are Earth
I
616.
love that idea. I've always
so
been really
good.
fond
Alright,
of
we've
that.
gotta
Why
s-
would we be Earth 1?
We've got to start
Yeah.
wrapping it up.
So
So
sadly.
let's wrap it up. Go ahead.
My name is Matt Key at the Matt Key. You can catch me on my Marvel show on Tuesdays. And yes, that is Chief is Doom, who was on my show. You are correct, whoever asked that. And then I'm also on Screen Junkies Thursdays and Fridays. And go watch Facebook Live posts earlier to find out the full story of this. It's not a soul stone, as someone suggested. Someone was like, "Are you hiding a soul stone?" I wish that were true.
100%
That would
hiding
be
a soul
way
stone.
cooler.
That would have
Please
been very
send your
cool.
Matt Key fanfiction.
Just hashtag Wednesday Club on
Yep.
on Tumblr.
I'm Amy Dallen. Thank you for watching.
Where can they find you on the internet?
You know where to find me. I'm Enthusi Amy. I'm here a lot.
Gotta say it.
Yeah.
Every issue is someone's first.
That's true. Voiced by my own card.
And I'm Taliesin Jaffe, and I'm Executive Goth everywhere it matters. You can find me on this show or on Critical Role on Thursdays and all over the internet in weird places. And to quote the great Calvin of Calvin and Hobbes, people who are way too nostalgic about their childhood were probably never children. Have fun, kids. Woohoo!
Someone just called.